Hey everybody, here's another episode in the offer writing workshop. I'm going to take this one right from soup to nuts, right from the very beginning to the drafting of the letter of intent, so you can all see how it's done. I just happened to find this one here. Just happened to find this one recently. Actually, this is kind of an older one, but let me just walk through it here with you. Properties Highland Park is located in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It was sent in by one of my students a long time ago. 138 units. Right away, you get a couple of issues here. It's 72 two-bedrooms, 61 bedrooms. So you know you're looking at a lot of single units that end up acting like hotel units practically. And then 6 junior one bedrooms. But also the fact is that the price is to be determined. So they're obviously trying to figure out what the highest best price is. If you're looking in the Tulsa, Oklahoma area and you know where this property is located and you've been working in that area and you're very familiar with the market, you should know what the cap rate is on this type of an asset. And that's going to be to your benefit when we try to determine what the price is. If you don't know anything about Tulsa and you're thinking like, oh, I'm just going to start analyzing deals in Tulsa, and you've got a deal that says it's priced to be determined, and you don't even know what the cap rate is, you're going to price this thing probably way out of line. The number won't look right, and the broker will either think that he's got a live one on the wire, or that you don't know what you're talking about. So if you're starting to look in a particular marketplace and you're starting to bid on properties that the market determines the rate, then you had better know what the cap rate is. And for the sake of this discussion, let's assume that we know what the cap rate is, and let's assume that the cap rate is 8%. All right? It's an 8 cap. So we start looking at the property. We're looking at all, okay, they get some great, beautiful sections, here more pretty pictures. Okay, what's it going to tell us about this particular property? Purchase price to be determined. The total unit mix. Area occupancy is 96%, but the current occupancy is only 82%. So this is an underperforming asset. Why? Why can't this property perform at what the area is shooting for? Probably because of the fact that it was renovated. It's a 1968 construction. Well, what's the 96% occupancy go at? Are those also 1968 units as well? Or is a 96% occupancy based upon much newer units? And then, of course, my favorite thing is renovated in 2008. Of course, we always have to ask the question, what does renovated mean? Because renovated means different things to different people. Okay, now check out some of the things, and this is why I'm going to like using this particular example as a teaching tool. Look at it's an assumable HUD loan, non-recourse, with 5 years left in the long term. It's kind of a short period of time, but that would probably be the most minimum time frame I would be interested in looking at to buy a property, to assume an existing loan. So this one is an assumable, which means that we have to know how to analyze that deal in the cash flow analyzer. All right. All units have all been well maintained. Over 50% of the units have been upgraded. Okay, over 50. That means you still got a lot more to go. That means you got about another 60 units potentially to have to renovate. Okay, let me see, what else do we have in here? 2008 full exterior paint job, two-tone paint scheme, resurfaced counters, tubs and tile, rehab balconies. That's it. Nothing on the appliances, nothing on the carpeting, nothing on the hallways. So the 2008 rehab was not that big of a rehab. This is still a 1968 property, which probably explains the 82% occupancy. And then 2014, okay, they fixed up the office. They completed the laundry room, probably because they re-upped their laundry contract. Fully furnished remodel, 1-bedroom unit. Fully furnished a model unit. Big deal. Whoop-de-doo. Common area, okay, we won't get into that. Site utilities. Water, master and sewer, the property pays, yep. Electricity, resident pays, all bills paid, options available. Okay, all bills paid, options available. Now that is very important that you know that now, because that's going to have a big impact on how you calculate the rents. Because what will happen is, let's say the rent is $500, but then you look at the rent roll and you see some people are on the rents for $600. Does that mean the rents are $600? No, it means the rents are $500, and there's a $100 utility charge added into it. So to properly account for this property, you've got to be able to separate out the rent from the utilities. You don't lump them all together and call it rent. All right, that helps you understand if your markets are above market, if your rents are above market or below market. When you add in all these additional charges like pet fees and security deposit fees, all those types of things, that skewers the look of the property. You want to make sure that you categorize each expense correctly. The gas, it's property pays the gas, and the property pays the trash removal. So that's kind of strange. It could be an all bills paid property for many of the residents. That's not a good thing. That might also explain. This is everything that I'm seeing right now is telling me that this is a tough property. This is a C-class property. The age of the property, the fact that you've got all bills paid options on here, these are the types of tenants. C-class tenants look for this type of thing. Okay, pretty pictures. I'm going to scroll through them because I don't really care. They mean absolutely nothing to me. And so let's see here. Okay, so here we got the historicals, 2011, 12, and 13. And then you get next page, 2014 year-to-date P&L. All right, so here, this is important to me. Let me see if I can minimize this a little bit so you can get it all on one screen. There we go. That should do it. Yeah, there we are. All right, so this is where I'm going to start doing my calculations for the cash flow analyzer. As you can see, I've got numbers from January through December. What's missing here, and this is going to be a problem. Take a look at this, a pro forma. I don't care about the pro forma. And here are the pro forma assumptions. I don't care about that. Here are the 5-year projections. I don't care about that. But what I do care about right here are the loan details. We're going to come back to this particular section in a little bit. But until that time, when we get to the banking information on the cash flow analyzer, we're going to look at the loan details and input it from there. So there's one missing piece that I'm looking for. I want to know what each unit is being billed, what the market rent is for each unit. That's where I'm really going to get my start in the cash flow analyzer. Let me see if they happen to put it in anywhere in here, because I haven't seen it yet. If anybody thinks I missed it, please type into the question box and let me know. I didn't see it. Bear with me here, guys. And I will post this up on the membership site so you can have this document along with it. Okay, here we go. Current rents. All right. All right, so you know what, just so that I can get through this very quickly, I am going to get this information in, oops, as quickly as I possibly can. How would I do? I just actually clear this out. Let me jump over here to the input data screen. No. All right, so what I'm going to do here, just if I got to minimize this a little bit so I can have it. I'm right there. So, oh, bummer. Here when it does that. Okay. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to put in these numbers: 6, 12, 24, 22, 24, 23, 27. All right, and I'm going to put in the monthly rent. Remember, because here we've got the rental, current rents are all right here. Okay, so I'm going to stick these numbers in there: 419, 480, 499, 520, 580, 599, 620. Oh, it would be helpful if I hit the enter button too. See, this is what happens on live TV. Boom. All right. So what does that tell me? That shows me right up here what the gross potential rent is based upon the current rents of 1.13581. So if everybody paid all the rent at the market rates or the current rents, all 12 months, this property will collect 1.13 million. All right. So now, if we go back to the screen that I was looking for. Here we go with live TV. That's not what I'm looking for. Oh, what do you know? Here we go. Okay. Then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to scroll back up to that number that I wanted. I don't care about any of this stuff until I have the property under contract. Then it becomes very interesting to me. Here we go. All right, look right here. The rental income on the property. This number is going to become very interesting for me when I add it in. So if I look at 485,313 divided by 9 months times 12, that tells me that this property is on track to collect $647,000. That means this number right here, should be $647,000. What I need to do is input some number. As you can see, I'm getting closer. Right there. Look at that, folks. This property is running at 42% occupancy. To get to that number, I have to input a vacancy rate of 42%. That means if the property is running well, you're looking at a 1.113 million gross potential income. According to their trailing 12 financials, or 9 months of the trailing 12, it's going to collect $645,000. To get from 1.113 to 645, I need to collect 42%. I need to input a vacancy rate of 42%. That's not that great. That property's not running all that well. So there are other income that we have to put in here. We have the application fee, the laundry vending income, the pass-through electric income, past due balances collected. Oh, hey, that's not a good one. So let's take a look. I'm going to add in the 19,153, and then I'm going to add in $1,000 for the laundry. That's not so good. Pass-through electric is 52,000. I divide that by 9 and multiply it by 12. 69,000. So that means when I go back to the spreadsheet here, under other income, the monthly amount is $5,800. Let's try that again. So that gives me the total rental income and the total other income section for the property. Let's take a look and see how close we come to the total income. So if he says it's 545, 528 divided by 9 times 12, that equals 727,000. What do we come up with in our number? Let's go down to cash flow analysis. It's holding ours. It's 599. Wait a minute. Other income 61,000. Potential rental income is 913. 913. Less the vacancy. So what's happening here is that first year line, the rental income is not coming in to what it should be. Am I doing on 913? Oh, you know what? I was looking at year 11. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Let's try this again. We have to get that number back up to that 6. What did we say? It was 913. I'm sorry, guys. Let me do this again here. 485, 313 divided by 9 times 12, 647. Go here. This number has to equal 647. Let's redo the vacancy. 647, pretty close. 647, let's do 29%. 647, okay, so it's 29% vacancy rate. Now, we said 747, let's see how it looks. Let's see, 7, there we go. 718 is the total income. Let me jump, I know I'm jumping back and forth here very quickly, and I apologize. Total income, 545 divided by 545 divided by 9 times 12 equals 726. And what do we have here in our analysis? 726, and we're at 718. So we're kind of close. We're off by about $8,000. All right, I'm going to leave it that way. Now, let's get down to the expenses. Now, I'm not going to go through every one of these expenses, all these line item expenses. I'm just going to lump them all together. You're going to need to go through each one of them and make sure that they're right. That it'll be crazy for me to go through each one. Let's just take a look and say that they've got the total expenses at 396. 3 divided by 9 times 12 equals 528,000. And I'll jump back over here. And under the expenses, I'm going to give myself one line item. Take that out. 528,000. And when I put that number in there, the number that I then look down here is at 73.5%. This thing absolutely is running like a very hot, all bills paid property. And at a 73% expense ratio, that is incredibly high. That is a tough number to get your hands around. I'm telling you right now, guys, this is not the type of property. This is not the type of property that you want to own. 73. This thing has just got so many things wrong with it. It really does. And then on top of it all, you got to buy the. Then on top of it all, you've got to assume the existing note that only has 5 years left. Holy, hey, man, you've got to really steal this property to make it even worthwhile. So let's take a look. Get back here to the now. Remember, all we put in is the income and the expenses. Now we've got to put in the input data. This is where we're going to get it's going to get interesting. And this is where I hope I can find my there we go. I'm going to find this again. I'm going to take a jump over, and now I'm going to look over at the banking information. Right there. This is crucial at this point. Okay? Now note here that we're dealing with a $3.155 million note. Now here's the thing you need to understand. When you're buying a new property and you're going out to get a mortgage on it, the value of the mortgage is a percentage of the purchase price of the property, right? 75% LTV, 80% LTV. But when you're doing an assumption, there is no percentage. That loan balance is a fixed number. It remains exactly the same. So whether the property is worth $8 million or $2 million, the loan balance is exactly the same. So what does that mean for you when you're putting your numbers together? It means you come down here, and the amount being borrowed or assumed is not 25%, but 3,155 right there. Now, did they tell us what the interest rate was? 5.96. It's a 40-year amortization. So let's go do this again. Oh, sorry about that. Where am I? It's a 5.96 interest rate, and we're going to add another. Let me see. We're going to do the 40 years, 480. Yeah, I know. I can hear you guys out there laughing. The fact I had to use my calculator in that one. I know Manish is. Okay, so there's our information regarding the property, regarding the loan information. We just put it all in there. We put a flat amount in there for the amount being borrowed or assumed. Here's the interest rate, 40-year amortization, and that tells us what the note is. Let's see if it tells us exactly. Let me keep doing this. Sorry, folks. For some reasons, it's just throwing me off. Does it tell you how much though? What the monthly payment? Almost $20,000, and I think we came up with about $17,271. I bet you the difference is in the outstanding loan amount. They said approximately 3.155. It's obviously going to be a little bit more. All right. So now remember, we said that this property is at 8 cap. What happens if we come here to the second section and we put in an 8 cap? Boom. If we say, based upon the NOI, at an 8 cap, this property is worth $2.3 million. How much is the outstanding amount? 3.1. That's not going to work. You can't buy this property. The performance just doesn't even justify it. That's just crazy. What happens if we say it was like a 6 cap, which it is not? That's what it should be trading for. And not just, just to get you out of the loan, you'd have to buy it at a 6 cap. But I can tell you, Tulsa, this type of property, you shouldn't be buying it at a 6 cap, that type of property. You get so much more better quality property at a 6 cap than you could any of this other stuff. So, listen, this deal is not looking good whatsoever. But we're going to go through with it. We're going to, make them an offer. But we're going to offer them essentially the loan amount. That's what we're going to offer. So in here, we're going to put in 3155. Okay? So if we put in 3155, how does this property look? Jump over here to cash flow analysis. And look at that. A 0.92 debt coverage ratio. Cash on cash negative, nothing. Then it, with equity, let me see why, because it jumps up. Well, why does it even jump up so high? Because it finally pays off its how much money you need to get into the deal. Yeah, this property is just bad news. Totally bad news. So what do? Well, what happens if we make an offer at the 2.3? How does it look? 2.3. Then we have that. All right. This should be an 8. 2.3. Cash flow analysis. Look at our debt coverage ratio is still the same. Why is our debt coverage ratio still the same? Because the amount of the mortgage does not change when we change the purchase price. It's an assumption. So that 3155 is hard-coded in there. The only way to increase that debt coverage ratio is to increase the NOI. And it's not going to happen. It's just not happening at this rate. So this property is a dog. You wouldn't even go forward with, you wouldn't even go forward with this property. You'd call the broker and say, hey, geez, you got anything better? And, he knows he's got an ugly baby. But let me just walk you through a couple of things here on the LOI. All right. So here's the LOI that you would use, and I'll post this up to the the site as well. You're going to put in here that the assumption takes into consideration the existing debt, and then you're going to put in the down payment. And it's obviously what you're going to try to do, and we put 20% in here, and here's why. Listen, if this property is worth 3.1, or the debt on this is worth 3.155, and you offer 3.155, the bank will probably not allow your assumption to go through because you have zero skin in the game. And the bank doesn't like it when you have zero skin in the game. So you're going to have to put in some money. So we try to structure the deal so it looks like you're putting in 20%. I don't know how we're going to do that, but I'm just trying to think about what it's going to take to get this deal accepted, okay? Now, as I've always said, you can find this on a couple of different videos that I've done. When you're dealing with an assumption, you've got two other things you need to take into consideration, okay? First one, everything looks exactly the same, right? Looks like your typical LOI. But here we've got this thing called a capital reserve account. Now, you might think to yourself, oh, geez, what is that all about? Think about it, folks. When you have a multifamily deal and you own the property and you're putting in a reserve replacement every single month you're putting in, $250 per unit per year, 1/12 of $250 per unit per year. You're setting aside in the bank account. Now, that money sits in the bank account and is to be used for capital expenditures on the property. The bank tells you what you can use that money for. So you have to use that money for that particular purpose. What happens if you don't use the money? It just goes and accumulates. It accumulates. And the bank doesn't mind because it's sitting in their bank account and it's protecting their asset. It's helping their collateral. So they don't care whether you use it or not, just as long as it's there. So what happens at the closing table when you assume an existing note? Who gets that money? The seller gets that money. So if he hasn't touched that money over the last 5 years, that means that at the closing table, the bank is going to cut this guy a check for $100,000. And then they're going to turn to you and say, pony up. And you're going to say, what do you mean pony up? Pony up, we want $100,000. Like, well, wait, no, that's not how this works. Oh, yes, it is. It's an assumption. This is not a new money purchase. The bank wants that collateral. That $100,000 is viewed as collateral for the bank, and they want it. And now they just cut it to him, and they want you to give it to them. That means you've got to come up with an additional $100,000 at the closing table on an assumption, if that's how much is in reserve. So how do you protect yourself from that happening? That's crazy. If you were going out to buy this property and not assume the existing note, would you have to come up with that kind of money? No. You accumulate it yourself over your time. So now you're being asked to pony up another $100,000 into the fund. So what I'm telling you here is that I put this provision into the account, into the LOI, and I tell the seller, you either give me that $100,000 or you spend that $100,000 on the property. But either way, at the closing table, I'm not coming to the table with any more money. You don't like it, we'll walk. Tough luck. Find some other schmuck. But this is the way we're going to do it. Okay? So that's one of the things we put into the LOI for an assumption. Always put that in there, folks. Just don't get caught. And listen, and if you think to yourself, if I ever hear one of my students say, oh, but what happens if the seller doesn't like that? I don't care what the seller likes or doesn't like. You're the guy who's writing the check. They should be kissing your behind. Don't do it. You control the deal. Don't let anybody else control the deal. So make sure that that provision is in there and don't apologize. Think about it, folks. That $100,000, that money should have been being spent on the property all along. And if he hasn't, he's been neglecting your asset. Have him start spending the money on the property. And don't make it come out of your pocket. All right? Now, the next provision that we always make sure is in the letter of intent for an assumption is the assumption of the existing loan. What happens here is, remember how I said that if you made an offer on this property such that you're offering the amount equal to the outstanding debt, meaning you're just coming to the table with taking over the existing loan without having to show up to the closing table with any money down, the bank, everybody's going to pat you on the back and say, bravo, bravo, you just negotiated this phenomenal deal. That's great. You're the best. And so you think to yourself, great, all I got to do is show up to the closing table with the closing costs, and now I own this property. And the bank is going to say, bravo, bravo, you negotiated a fantastic deal. And so you're into it with some earnest money. Your earnest money has gone hard. You're waiting for the bank to get back to you to tell you you've been approved. And then, your earnest money is now hard. And if they can you, you lose the money. And the bank doesn't can you. But they come back and they say, well, you got to put 20% down. And you say, well, no, that's not how it works. I negotiated the price so that it equals this. Like, no, that's great. You did a great job, but you still have to show 20% down. That's $600,000. I'm not going to pay the guy $600,000. That means I just overpaid over our deal by $600,000. And there's no, we understand. We're not saying that you have to give the seller the $600,000. What we're saying is you've got to come up with $600,000 and keep it in our bank. So I got to come up and raise $600,000 among my investors just to let it sit in your bank account? Yep, that's right. Or you're not approved for the loan. And so, well, wait a minute, you told me I was approved and my money's already hard. Well, you better come up with $600,000 or you're going to lose your earnest money. And well, wait a minute, that's an additional economic term, and your loan documents clearly state that you cannot add any additional economic terms or the deal is done. No, well, I guess the deal's done. And we're the bank, and we wrote the contract, so we'll do whatever we want. I'm not telling you folks, you think I'm crazy, this is how it works. That's why we put this provision into the LOI. And remember, for those people taking my due diligence course right now, this particular provision carries forward into the purchase and sale agreement. It has to. If it doesn't get from here, the LOI, into the purchase and sale agreement, it does not exist. So make sure you put something like this in the LOI. It ends up in the P&S. Okay? And in this particular case, what it means, essentially, and you can read it verbatim, hopefully you guys have read this stuff. What it means is if the bank comes back and changes anything, you have the opportunity to walk and get all of your earnest money back, even if you've gone beyond the financing contingency, even if you're the day before the closing date. If the bank changes any of the terms, you get to walk. All right, and there's one more provision that I always like to put into this LOI, which you're not seeing here, is the fact that you have to limit the closing cost. Let me just check to make sure that I'm not incorrect in this. I might have already put this one in here. Let me see. Closing cost. Okay, right here, yeah. Oh, gosh, I'm good. Okay, the purchaser's closing costs will be limited to $10,000, including lender's legal fees, okay? So this is why. You're going to have to pay a 1% assumption fee when you do an assumption. That's just given. You're going to have to do that. That's like 1 point on any type of new money purchase. But on an assumption, you end up having to work with the seller's bank, and the seller's bank chooses the legal department that they use, and you don't have any say over this. And so that means at the end of the day, just before the closing, they're going to stick you with a bill. And the bill could be as high as, crazy number, $20,000, something ridiculous. And guess what? You've got to pay it. And you've got no say. And this is not the way we do business. So what you do here in this particular provision is we limit the lender's closing costs. And we tell the seller, hey, we understand that we're on the hook for some legal fees at closing, but we're not going to be on the hook for a huge number. We're going to be on the hook for what's reasonable and customary. So we set that number at $15,000. If it goes over this number, you've got to pay it. And you put this provision in the LOI, it translates into the purchase and sale agreement. The title insurance company sees this in the purchase and sale agreement, and they know that when they go to draft the sources and uses and the closing statement on the HUD-1, that anything, you're going to pay up to 10, anything more falls on the seller's side of the closing statement, okay? So this is what you need in any assumption deal if you're drafting an LOI, and it has to be done. It has to be done at the LOI stage. You cannot do this at the purchase and sale stage. You're adding new terms to the deal when you get to the purchase and sale stage. If you know that it's an assumption and you know that you're making the offer based upon an assumption, make sure that you put these 3 provisions into the LOI and then let them sail right through the entire closing process. So that's how you do this deal. this particular deal, I'm not going to do the numbers on the LOI. I just want you to see how the offer needs to be drafted. This deal is not a deal. We kind of knew that when we saw the vacancy rate. It's kind of obvious. And also, once again, you have to look at this property and ask yourself the question, does this property meet my investment criteria? Is this the type of deal that I'm looking to build my portfolio with? This is a solid C-class property in a very flat market. Tulsa, you're not going to have huge swings in Tulsa. It's an all bills paid property, and it's built in 1968. I was built in 1964, and I'm falling apart. So you got to think to yourself, is this the type of asset I really want to own? If it is, hey, you're still not going to be able to buy this property. You can't get this property. This property cannot trade. Some students sent this property over to me maybe a year, 2 years ago. I wonder what the status is of this property. Maybe if somebody does some searches or looking in Tulsa, and they can tell me whatever happened to this deal. But if the note is 3.1, and we're only coming up at an 8 cap with a 2.3 valuation, you can't trade this property. The owner cannot get out of this deal. He's stuck, and he's trying to stick it to you. So the only way he can get out of this property is if he gets out of the loan. And the bank's like, hey, if you can't do anything with this, we're just going to take the property back. And that's probably what happened with this particular deal. So that is it. That is it. Let me jump on over here to any questions, see if I have any questions. No questions. Wow. I explained it so well. Is that what happened? You think? Anyone? Yes. Wait a minute. Who said that? What did some wise guys say? Thanks, Diane. I explained it so well. Okay, good. So that's what I've got here for today's group coaching call. If anybody has any properties that want me to take a look at, use some of these types of examples, I'm going to record this. This week's recordings will probably be put up over the weekend, this coming weekend, because I'm traveling this week. So you won't see this one up for a while, but otherwise keep your eye peeled for it. All right, everybody, shoot me a text or send me an email, and if you need anything, or track me down on WhatsApp. Everybody have a great day. See ya.